Seer Show is a live broadcast of truth seekers and believers empowering the evolution of consciousness. Raphael and Celeste will dive deeper than the mainstream media while answering the mind's deeper questions and transforming conversations. They will have unique guest speakers who will share knowledge, tools, and techniques to create coherence in our mind, body, and spirit.
Good morning from New York and good evening from Sydney. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you, Raphael. Very good to be here tonight. This
Yes.
morning.
This evening for you. I get it. Thank you so much for definitely joining us. And I know Celeste would love to be here with us, but she's having technical issues with her computer.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about ancient healing, right? And why is it that we go back to ancient healing? Why isn't it that sometimes the modern healing is not really taking care of what it should?
Look, so I've been now in Chinese medicine and ancient healing for 15 years. My father has been a practitioner for close to 50 years. So
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, he's, I think, coming up to 48 years. So look, I would say there's a huge difference with ancient healing is that it's kind of survived the test of time. You know, back then it was passed down through generation, through, masters to students. And they really knew sort of what was really going on deep with the body. You know, if it survived a couple of thousand years, then I would definitely say that it really knows what is happening. So I'd say, look, there's a lot of great wisdom in ancient healing. They really understood the core aspects of what was really going on with the body.
Right.
On such a deep level, we're not just looking at modern medicine in terms of fixing the symptoms. With ancient healing, we're really going back to the core issues of what is going on, say, with the body, be it mind, body, spirit. And we look at the body. I think the big difference is we look at the body as a holistic whole. We're looking at everything from top to bottom. When you go to an ancient healer or someone that practices holistic healing, they're sort of giving you one thing to walk away with, like the one root problem. Whereas, going to modern medicine doctors, you go in with like 5 different symptoms, you're going to walk out with 5 different medications or scripts,
Yes.
right? So they don't really understand the whole holistic nature. They've sort of lost their ways in a bit, not to say, there's some great things with modern medicine. They're great for surgeries and things. But when it comes to chronic illnesses, chronic problems that people are facing for months and years, they don't have that deep understanding of what is really going on. So a lot of people now are leaving modern medicine. It's not working for them. They're finding that, ancient wisdom and holistic healing is suiting them much better. And they're really getting great answers on really going back and finding out the root problem of what's basically going on with their bodies.
Definitely. As a Chinese martial arts practitioner myself,
Yeah.
I've been doing martial arts for about 47 years.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love it. It is my
What
life.
type of martial arts do you do?
I teach Tibetan Lama Pai, which is it went from Tibet and it went to China. And then it was at the Green Cloud Monastery.
Wow.
And so my great grandmaster spoke Cantonese, and I know Cantonese is not common anymore as much as Mandarin is, right? What do you
I'd
speak?
still say, I speak Mandarin, but I definitely say the second, probably most common spoken dialect in Asia is definitely Cantonese. So after Mandarin, it is, more widely spoken in sort of Canton, parts of China and Hong Kong. It's their predominant dialect. But I obviously grew up, my parents are immigrants from China. Grandparents are from China, and they actually grew up in Southeast Asia. But they wanted to make sure that it wasn't lost. Mandarin wasn't lost as a language, that we knew at least, could speak and have conversational Chinese, because it's so important, to remember your roots. Culturally, it's the same as like a lot of immigrants and a lot of cultures. They really want to make sure that their children remember. I'm not quite sure how my children go. I wish I spoke more Mandarin with them. They can understand Mandarin, but bits and pieces. They're only little. But yeah, I definitely think it's it's something that we need to be able to continue with a specific language such as Chinese. And when you're learning things like Chinese medicine, it definitely helps to be able to understand the language. And also being in China myself for a few years really helps to, ingrain that when you're living and breathing and have no other choice but to speak Mandarin.
That's beautiful. When we think about language, and as an NLP practitioner yourself, it's so important, right? And sometimes when you think about the interpretations are lost, right? From one language to another. The meaning, like sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but if I say it in my language, it's gonna make
Yeah.
sense, right? So
Yeah.
it's such a big thing. One of the things that I went to a lot of Chinese doctors, and I had toy knot done on me, all these different things. And sometimes people don't understand, but it works. So I used to do all the herbs. I used to
Yep.
get all these different teas and stuff of that nature. And a lot of it I still use. For example, when we use for hitting, we use a bruise liniment. It's called Dita Jiao. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's been such a big and deep impact into what I do, how I use it. My students use it,
Yeah.
so it's important for us. And it's just fascinating because before I had gone to a Chinese doctor, you can go to a doctor and they would ask you 1,000 questions, maybe if they're a good doctor, right? And when I would go to a Chinese doctor, maybe we didn't speak the same language. All they had to do was look at my hands, and they can tell so much about, my diet and all these different things. I was like, this is super amazing. It's so cool. And it was true, everything they were saying, like, oh, you're not getting enough this, you're not doing that. And I'm like, wow, how do you know all this stuff? It was just like to me, it was mind boggling.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So, back in the ancient days, even in when the kings would, be sick and you couldn't touch, royalty, they would take the pulse. And obviously being in Chinese medicine, the biggest thing we look at is people's face. So that tells a lot about someone's health. And then we look at the tongue and the pulse. And there is so much to tell about these people's health just by looking at them. You don't have to ask them anything, right? So I can actually tell and look at someone just by their
Right.
face, the coloring, what is happening with specific lines, where all the markings are. And I can get a pretty good idea of what is actually happening deep within, because our bodies are a mirror, our face, our tongue is a mirror of what is happening internally. So that is what makes Chinese medicine just so unique, is that, we don't have to speak any language and they don't have to tell us. And then from the pulse and the tongue, we can treat them and just give them the perfect formula. My father, he's aligned with the Shaolin temple. And so they practice a lot of Shaolin martial arts as well. And like you said, like some of these ancient healings and some of these remedies, and that has been through the test of time. People still get injured, whether it's through martial arts training and that, but these formulas are amazing and they're so quick for recovery. You imagine what you put your body through. You've seen that through your own martial arts students, how if you can, if you hurt yourself, you can get back on track within relatively a couple of weeks or a couple of months, as opposed to sort of that long-term damage when you get on top of it and have that right sort of formula just to, get that body healed up really quickly.
So let's talk a bit. Yes, one of the things that I'm still fascinated by it, and let's talk a little bit about you. You're a fertility coach. Let's talk about what that means for someone, especially, for someone who's trying to conceive. What is it necessarily for people who don't realize that the impact that you can make on upon them being able to conceive is just that much better should they
Yeah.
seek your help, right? Can we talk
Yeah,
about
look,
that?
yeah, definitely. I'd say, look, these days I'm seeing a lot more. Like, I don't know whether it's just because more clients are coming, or whether fertility rates, I do believe fertility rates and just the trouble of conceiving is definitely at an all-time high. I put it down to a couple of reasons. I definitely say that obviously with the pandemic and what's been happening around the world, there's been a lot of physical stress, emotional stress, financial stress on a lot of people. And stress is one of the biggest problems to health, right? Be it infertility or any other health issues, right? Infertility is literally just a symptom of what is going on deep down. So when they come and seek my help, I obviously combine a lot of this ancient wisdom and holistic healing into be able to tapping into what is the root cause of being not able to have a baby, you know, be it they need to get back on a strict physical regimen. We need to change the diet and lifestyle, get on top of our nutrition and being super, super careful with what we're eating so that we can optimize those hormones, right? It comes down to making sure everything is aligned up, you know. And then, you know, also checking with their mental and emotional health, you know, obviously with the pandemic, and there's still a lot of people around the world still suffering from that. You know, people who haven't seen some of their loved ones for 3 Christmases now, right? So there's been a lot of stress around that. Travel isn't back to normal yet, right, with all the countries. So there's a lot of emotional stress around that. So whether you're eating properly and you're in great physical health, if you're definitely going through a lot of emotional and mental stress, that needs to be worked on. So we need to look at a whole holistic, you know, the whole holistic person and really look at every single area. Like I mentioned earlier, right? We need to look at mind, body, spirit. So then we need to tap into basically what is going on with the body, with the mind, and with the spirit. Are they really focusing on themselves? Are they tapping into their own, you know, spiritual well-being and really being able to optimize all of those areas? And then, you know, being that support for them. It is a very emotional journey. It's very stressful, especially people are starting their family or starting to have a baby a lot later in life. You know, we aren't like our grandparents' generation that had kids in our late teens or early 20s, right? Most women and family these days are having children in their late 30s. You know, the majority of my clients are late 30s, early 40s. So obviously we're in a different physical nature by, you know, late 30s. We're not obviously the same as, we're not a spring chicken anymore, unfortunately. And so we do need that additional support, additional help. And so that's when sort of all different modalities that I've studied in the past, including acupuncture, Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, you know, looking at NLP, looking at clearing a lot of those beliefs and trauma that's happened, will really get someone back into, you know, more of a wholeness and back into sort of alignment so that they can optimize their health and be able to have that baby sooner. So I use a variety of different skill sets and that, but yeah, taking people to really going back to just laying down all that foundation and making sure everything is in the best state possible to be able to conceive, but not in conceive, but have a healthy baby, right? We want to go past just the conception, because it is a 1-year journey for some, right? Conceiving for a couple of months and then all the way pregnancy is a 10-month journey. So, you know, it can take anyone between 12 to 18 months, even 2 years to be able to then hold that baby in their arms. So yeah, it's definitely not a short journey for some. And if they're sort of got more issues going on hormonally, health-wise, it can take that bit longer to be able to hold their baby. So they could conceive in a few months, but we're also looking at also during pregnancy, which is a really important time to make sure mother and baby are supported as well.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you talked about is definitely the age of the woman now conceiving compared to, like you said, back in the day when people were teenagers and they were having babies, right? And now it's kind of frowned upon a teenager having a child. But would you say the childbearing years are better for teenagers because of the less stress, of the less, mental anguish sometimes that they may even go through? Because I think a lot of what happens to a person is that their beliefs are going to definitely be so much different if you're a teenager compared to when you're in your 30s, right? So you've gone through all these mental changes. So you talked about the mental state as well, right? So even though we're frowning upon a teenager nowadays having children, did this occur as well back before people understood that fertility was something that is a whole, I guess, a holistic approach to giving birth, because there was not enough studies back then, right?
Mm. Yeah, look, there's definitely, the age question comes down to when people are ready. Obviously, back
Mhm.
then, a lot of women weren't working. So if you're looking at your grandparents' age, they were basically full-time mothers, right? And so they
Mm.
got married young, and then they started having a family in their late teens, early 20s. Whereas, obviously with living going up, with everything costing a lot more, both parents need to work. And people also they didn't have that tertiary education. So I think it comes down to various factors. But obviously, even having children in your mid 20s, right, as opposed to having a family in your mid 30s or even mid 40s for a few
Mm.
of my clients, you're definitely in a better physical capacity. You've got more
Right.
energy, waking up a lot. In the first couple of months when you have that newborn, you're waking up every hour or two. And so that definitely plays a toll on your recovery. Your body obviously bounces back a lot quicker in your sort of 20s than it
Mhm.
does in your 40s. So I would say that from a physical perspective, your body is definitely more equipped to handle having a
Mhm.
baby earlier, as early as possible. But I also think that with the mental state, I definitely think that when you're in your late 30s and early 40s, you have lived life obviously, for an extra 10 or 15 years and
Mhm.
have more maturity and more understanding about how the world works. And so you could have definitely more positive attributes for being a mother later in life. So I think it just depends on people's circumstances, but for sure, there's definitely benefits on a physical level for having a child as early as possible. So if you are in that beautiful, loving relationship and are ready to
Mhm.
be a parent in your early 20s, right? I definitely
Mhm.
suggest being an earlier mum age-wise, and obviously, waiting till you're a lot later. So yeah, it's definitely personal circumstances, but you definitely see the body bouncing back. And if you want a big family, obviously, if you're starting family in your
Yes.
40s, you're not going to be having 3 kids, right? And so
Right,
they
right.
mainly only have one child. Whereas if you're in your early 20s, be it a cultural thing, there's still some cultures around the world getting married earlier. They can have, the sort of 4 to 6 children.
Mm.
Most people these days, I think, are only having 2 maximum. Costs are up, and with both parents working, as opposed to the mother being a stay-at-home mum, it definitely makes things a little bit more challenging and difficult to balance more than a couple of kids.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things, if we think about, um, the fertility and even the stable relationships, and you talked about if you're happy, right? Because a lot of times, so many people are worried more about their careers in comparison to, I need to have my family together. It's almost like people put that in the back burner
Mm,
nowadays, right? Having a
mm,
family, that's not important. I'm more important. And then later on, it's that, wait a minute, I am important, but there's something missing. I
mm.
want, or maybe it's not envy, because it's just that feeling. So for me, I'm number 10 of 12.
Wow.
So my mom, even though she could have, believe it or not, my mom got married when she was 12.
Wow.
I know,
That's
right?
definitely not legal these days.
Not these days. But here's the crazy thing. You would expect that maybe she had her kids right away. My sister was born when my mom was 19. So that
Wow.
was something interesting. And my mom's not around, so I can't ask her why she waited so long.
Mm.
But when you think about it, she had 12 kids after that, or 11 after that, after 19.
Yeah.
And And she was a teacher, so it wasn't like she was at home just having kids. She was also a professional. So it was pretty interesting, and I wish I would be able to have this conversation with my mom
Yeah.
and say, how did you even feel getting married at such an early age? And how on earth did you hold out till 19? Because that's 7 years being
Was
married,
that her
right?
actual age? And you definitely know that for sure. That was her
Yes.
age as she got married. Was it an
Yeah.
arranged marriage, can I ask?
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
I
you never
don't
had that
know.
conversation. Yeah.
I didn't. I wish I did. My dad's not around either.
So
So,
what's the gap between you and your older sibling?
oh my gosh, I think almost 20 years.
Wow. So she was probably having babies, yeah, I'd say from 19 all the way till 40. I mean,
Yeah.
I could hazard a guess and say perhaps, maybe, back then, I mean, people these days, because of the hormones, I think the food we're eating, a lot of that, they are actually getting their menstruation, their menses a lot earlier. Women or girls as young as 9, I've heard, are having their periods, which is unheard of, because
Mm,
going by back in the ancient days, and what is actually the norm is having your period at 14, right? They say
mhm,
the women have cycles of 7 years. That's why we sort of start our periods at 14 and finish at 49 traditionally, right? So it
right.
could be that perhaps your mother, started her menstruation a little bit later. It could have been that I'm hazarding a guess. I'd say maybe she was 14, 15. And then by the time they realized, perhaps because they didn't have a lot of sexual education back then, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
possibly that could be why she waited. But yeah, these days, look, going back to, I think a lot of girls are growing up a lot quicker. And yeah, the reasons, I would hazard a guess into just the foods, the hormones, what is really
Mhm.
going on with people's diet and lifestyle. They're starting, and that's way too young, because also if you start your periods a lot earlier, it'll end a lot earlier as well. And so if you're having
Mm,
that career that we spoke about, and you're, finishing uni and going into your career and wanting to move up the corporate ladder or build a career for yourself, a lot of people are starting their families in their late 30s, early
right.
40s. Obviously they're struggling because we've only got so many eggs in our basket. We're literally born with that number of eggs. So if you start early, when you're, 9 years old, you're going through early menopause, late 30s, early 40s. So that makes it quite difficult. So that's why I think we're also seeing a massive increase in IVF, or assisted fertility, for many people around the world, because, yeah, naturally, it's a lot more difficult for women who are putting their careers first, or perhaps not finding a partner until, their mid 30s, because they've put dating also on hold
Right.
until their careers have taken off. So various reasons and circumstances for each individual. But yeah, it's an interesting, topic, how people's lives unfold. I'm sure most people who want a family perhaps don't want to wait till their 30s, but, circumstances and that. And also, look, I think once people start their fertility journey as well, they uncover different things. I've had couples that have started earlier but have come across obstacles, be it the husband or the partner or themselves. Have had, issues that they've uncovered after they've started their journey. And then
Mm,
by the time you get tested and then rectify all of those through surgery or through whatever means, it's already a couple of years down the track. So, and if you're already starting late enough, it definitely, is delaying your family chances by a couple of years as well. So,
right.
yeah, it's difficult for those who really want that child and want to be younger mums, but can't do so.
Right. It doesn't always happen as
No.
planned, right?
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
just curious as to, I'm sure the stress level has to be truly high for someone who they think they get married at whatever age, and they're like, okay, I'm ready to have a baby.
Mm,
And all of a sudden it's like, it's not happening. It's not
mm,
happening. And then it's also, could it be a blame game, right? They start either blaming themselves, they blame their spouse, there's something that so that mental stress has to be an additional factor that goes into even having that baby, right?
Yeah, look, it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle for these women. And that's why, with my help, I try to break that cycle at some point,
Mm-hmm.
because they do want a baby. Some people get married, and as soon as they do, they want nothing more than to be a mom. They've wanted to be a mom their whole lives. And, then they hit, some obstacles with their health and that they didn't see. And it
Mm-hmm.
is hard. That's why I say, going back to mental stress, right? If you don't sort of break out of that cycle yourself or seek help, it can really become very stressful on some. And I've seen even couples sort of, go through divorce because of it, because they weren't able to give their husband or partner a baby, as soon as possible. And it's really difficult. It's mentally challenging. And then, that adds to more of the stress, right? So women are very hard on ourselves, especially those who are expecting, that it wasn't going to fail, right? We don't know, like I said, until we start. And then as soon as you find out, there's all these obstacles and that you or your partner's health, needs, more help, and it's slowing down the process. It's just, it's definitely a big hit in the gut for a lot of women. And it's very challenging times. So yeah, definitely seeking help and being able to sort of stay on course, stay positive. We go back to language and going back to what you're telling ourselves, right? If you sort of spiral down that rabbit hole, it's really hard to come back out. There's definitely lots of people that can help you, anywhere. There's so many fertility doctors and, holistic healing and all of that to really be able to get the answers, and just staying positive. If a baby is what you want, then just holding true and knowing it's going to happen when the time is right. I believe. Yeah.
So, Ellie, if you can, in the private chat, just put whatever links someone can find you at, and then we'll put them up on here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I definitely want to ask you is, I know your dad was a Chinese doctor and so forth. What made you decide to say, I want to be a fertility doctor? Could you have not just gone in your dad's footsteps?
Oh, look, it was a long road before I became a fertility practitioner and coach, for sure.
Mm.
I've gone through about 5 different careers. I
Mm.
started off actually straight out of high school. I went into IT. I did a 4-year Bachelor of Science in computer science, and I really hated just being in front of the computer. It was not my thing. I dreaded waking up and just, being in front of the computer. I was always a people person. Dad always wanted me to study Chinese medicine. He wanted me to follow in his footsteps, but I refused for the longest time. I was like, oh, I don't want to see sick people. You just see sick people all day with colds and flus and backaches. I don't want that. And I remember hitting a fork, in my career and going, I'd done the IT. And then after IT, I went into real estate, went into retail. I did a lot, and I was like, look, I don't know if this was me. Something was missing. I didn't find my true purpose. And then I got into, being a beauty therapist, and I loved that. I loved being a beauty therapist, which I still am these days, actually.
Mm.
And then look, Dad's like, look, since you're not doing anything, why don't you just go to China, take a, couple of months and, see the country. And I'd never spent that much time in China. So I went and enrolled in a basic course in Chinese medicine in Beijing. I remember going to a Chinese medicine college it was just a 3-month course. And I thought, oh, look, I'll dip my foot in, have a see, what it is to be fully immersed in the culture and just check it out, just see if I like it. It wasn't obviously committing to a 4-year degree here. Right. So, I just fell in love with the culture, the people. And so when I came back, I got into my Bachelor of Chinese Medicine here in Sydney and did a proper course. And I was like, look, I really enjoy this. I love seeing how I can really get to the root cause of it. And, we're in China, we're fully immersed in these hospitals. We did a lot of practical, and each day we would see hundreds of people. It's not like here in Sydney or in, the Western worlds where you're actually just seeing one person an hour. These were hospitals that treated these patients with Chinese medicine from the get-go, so they were coming in each day, to these hospitals, and this hospital was very busy, like most, being 1.8 billion people in China. They were just, they used it as a main form of medicine in a lot of hospitals. So seeing that, coming back to Sydney, studying Chinese medicine, I went into general practice. And about 6 years ago, I've been in practice 15 years now, but seeing that sort of, I really decided to, oh my goodness, this was like what was missing. More and more clients were saying, oh, they needed help with their hormones and maybe having a baby. And so, yeah, one thing led to another. And now majority of my clients are fertility clients, word of mouth and things like that. But it is a real passion of mine. I've got 2 little children of my own. And so really being able to obviously put my expertise into it through my holistic healing and different modalities, but knowing firsthand what it's like to go through pregnancy. So I think I became more in love with helping other women when I had my own children. So my oldest son, he's 6, almost 7. So about 6 to 7 years ago, that's kind of when I fell into more specializing into this field and really, honing my skills and having this passion. Is like I saw the, if anyone who's held a baby in their arms knows just that miracle and that feeling of what it's like, to be able to hold your own child. And so I decided then that I wanted to help more women, have the same feeling as myself and to be that mom. So that's my passion continuing, with that, is to be able to help more women around the world to be able to, have that same miracle for sure.
And I love the fact that we're calling it a miracle, because it truly, truly is. It
Yeah.
is the most amazing thing that, as a dad, I was there for the deliveries of my children. It was just the most amazing and beautiful experience. And that's from a guy, right? That's from I didn't feel it. It didn't come from my body, but just witnessing a miracle was beyond. And a lot of men have never witnessed such a miracle that close. And for me, it truly, not only, I'm one of those crazy guys that if I can have kids, I would, of my own. I mean, from my own body, if I could, I would, right? Unfortunately, men can't. But it's
You never
such,
know. Maybe one day in the future.
if you ever saw the movie Twins, right,
Yeah,
with Arnold Schwarzenegger,
that's right.
I was like, man,
Never
that
say
would be
never.
amazing.
Well, we definitely like to take that burden off us women, definitely holding that miracle baby minus,
Mm,
some people go through terrible pregnancies and also
right.
a terrible birth experience. I can't say my first experience was all too great. But obviously when you go through that, it's only going to be in a day or two. That, having a baby is a lifetime journey of being a mother to this amazing child. But even scientifically, like if you look at the science of actually what happens with an
Mm,
egg and a sperm, it is truly a miracle. It's like a baby forms in your, in your stomach, in your belly, from like
right.
this tiny couple of cells, right? It's like I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of these videos, and for those who haven't, I urge you to go to YouTube or, look at some of these videos of what actually happens scientifically in your body. It truly is a miracle, and our bodies are just fascinating. Like it's truly, truly fascinating that after not 10 months, you deliver this fully little human baby, it's with arms and
Yes.
legs and everything, right? Like it's such a perfect little thing after, cooking in your stomach for that long. It's from nothing, from a couple of cells to a
Yeah.
fully baby. It's just it's amazing. So yeah, very
It's
cool for me.
interesting that you said cooking. It's cooking in the belly.
Cooking.
It's like you're baking, right? It's in the oven,
We're
right?
baking, yeah. Yeah, our mothers, we are baking a little baby in there.
Yeah, yeah. So besides, understanding and the beauty of giving birth, right? For a woman, for a man, if they can experience being there, supporting their wife. I actually planned my kids. So my ex-wife didn't want to have kids, so I was not going to marry her. But when she decided she wanted to have kids, I went according to her menstrual cycle. I was one of those crazy people. So I planned our honeymoon according to her menstrual cycle. And so we were able to actually conceive during our honeymoon.
Mm.
But it was it was a miracle. And you know, babies are a gift, right? And we have to see that. And a lot of people, I recently had someone say, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have kids. And I was like, wow, how could you even say such a thing? Because you know what happens? They have teenagers.
Mm,
And so they forgot, right? The teenagers made them forget the beauty
yeah.
of, and this is a woman who said it, right? And I was like, wow, it doesn't matter. You got to remember those beautiful moments,
Yeah.
you know, what your body went through. And
Mm,
at this point, it is for them to say, I wish if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have kids. I'm like, wow. If I
mm.
had to do it all over again, I'd have 20, you know, for
Yeah, well,
me.
if I had to do it again too, I started my family a lot later in life. I've always wanted three. And so, yeah, definitely I'd start earlier. And look, I think having teenagers these days is difficult, but it's just
Hmm.
a phase, right? Like anything, like
Right.
people don't have a great newborn phase, right? I have many clients and friends whose babies cried 24/7 for 6 months
Hmm.
on end, right? And they're like, give
Mm.
me a baby that's 2 years old, like some people have a very difficult postnatal delivery, postnatal depression, and hormones are still raging, or they had a painful birth, all of those things. But they're all phases. But being a mother is a lifetime thing. It comes with all the challenges, and people forget that. They think, oh, it's just going to be this little baby and it's going to stay little forever,
Right.
but that doesn't happen, right? And each child is different. I've got a boy and a girl, and they are so different, similar in some ways, but obviously different personalities. And you had a lot of brothers and sisters and your own children, but there's no textbook that tells you how to raise a particular child, because they're all so different and they respond differently. But they're all phases, and it comes with being a parent. We go through the tough times, we go through toddler tantrums. My daughter's just come
Hmm.
out of her terrible threes, where she was so clingy to her father, and now she's
Mm.
this beautiful little girl. And yeah, my son didn't sleep for the first 18 months. I literally wanted
Oh,
to
wow.
throw him down the toilet, right? He literally slept 2 hours a night, and for 18 months. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do thinking I wanted to have children? But they're all
Mm.
phases. And now, he's this beautiful little boy. So, and teenagers just the same. I think we all have to be prepared for those different phases. But all children, I think it comes from also the parenting and the innate nature of the child. But yeah, it's just part of being a parent. It's like part of life, we have its ups and downs. So same with parenting. So yeah, it's hard. Parenting is definitely one of the hardest jobs, and mothers especially try to do it all. Like
Mm.
credit to even single moms out there.
Oh,
It is
yes.
so tough, let alone having a partner who's there to support you. It's difficult enough, but
Mm.
kudos and like full respect to single moms out there. Like it is so tough if they've got young children, or a few those that are close in age, because mothers they need to work, they need to look after the kids.
Mhm.
It's a full-time job, and having to have a full-time job plus being a full-time mom, yeah, it's difficult for sure. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's part of life, right? It's our experience of life here on earth. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it
You
for anything.
Oh, no, not at all. You know, you talked about single moms, and there's a lot of women who have a partner, and even though there's two people trying to raise this child, sometimes it seems like it's a single mom because the
Yeah.
dad does nothing, right?
Yeah.
So many parents, so many dads do not it's not, I'm not even going to say old fashioned, but they don't believe that they're the ones that are responsible to raise their own kids.
Mm,
And they
mm,
think that it's the women who are the ones that should do it all. Meanwhile,
yeah.
they don't realize the amount of work that goes into raising a child.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And I said my ex-wife didn't want kids, and it was a bit more apparent when my children were very big, babies, because I became Mr. Mom and she became Mr. Dad because she didn't care as much as raising them as I did.
Mm,
And it was interesting because even if we went to a gathering, I was the one feeding them. I had the baby bottle and I was the one changing the diapers. I was the one like paying attention all the time, and she's out there socializing. So for me, it didn't matter because I was in love with that role. I didn't mind it. So I
Yeah.
was one of those dads that was like, yes, this is a beautiful experience and I enjoyed every minute of it. But there are so many dads out there who don't participate, and I think they're missing out.
Yeah,
Mm.
I agree. Like I've got a couple of friends, one of them very close dear friend, and she complains that her husband's working 4 jobs. When he does come home, he spends half an hour with the child, and she feels like a single mom. He's never
Yeah.
around, right? And so it is really hard because children, we know that they grow up so quickly and you can't get those days or months or
No.
years back, right? And there's such beauty with seeing them through that transition. And there is still some old-fashioned men, but I also think that a lot of men have embraced that it is a 50-50 job. My husband's he's a great father. We pretty much do 50-50 on a lot of things. But there are definitely some parents who, or even moms who perhaps have like husbands or partners who are in, the army or who've got jobs that are constantly,
Right.
requiring them not to be around for whatever reason. But I think that if you are around, those years go by really quickly. And I think they may regret that, they weren't more hands-on. I
Mm.
think, yeah, there's definitely more drive towards being more equal in the relationship because the woman is also working as much as the man does in a lot of relationships. They have got full 40-hour weeks and that. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I think if you've got the support, it definitely makes things easier. It's tough enough being a parent and trying to do it all on your own and having a partner, but also, if you've got grandparents that are still alive, being able to, have them look after the children, once a week or something like that to give you also. People forget that once you have family time in the first couple of years, right, you don't really still spend any couple time. And yeah, that can be a big thing with relationships, right? We still need to
Mhm.
nurture, that relationship with each other as well as our
Right.
children and extended family. So
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of people are focused, they forget that, yeah, there's more people in the family as well. So, but look, I
Right.
hope that more people who aren't on board, really realize that it's so quick. You blink an eye, and I can't believe my daughter, she's going into kindergarten. She's almost 5, and it's
Yeah.
like, where did that time go? Right? It's like, I just felt like it was like a couple of months ago that I had her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time
My,
flies
my
by
son's
these days.
21, so I
Wow.
exactly feel what you're
College
talking about.
almost finished. Yeah, almost finished college.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So, when so I have one who's 18, the other one's 21. And
mm,
you talked about it earlier. Each one is unique. They're different,
mm,
right? Even the as babies they were so different.
yeah.
As toddlers they were so different, and now as young men they're very different as well. And even though they grew up in the same household, they had same parents,
Mhm.
but it is and that just reminds us how unique everyone is. And I got to tell you, you are extremely unique. You have so many hats you wear besides mom hat, right? You're a fertility coach, you're an NLP Master Coach, you're a master hypnotherapist and a beauty therapist. When do you find time to do all these things? And if you had to only do one of those, which one would you choose?
Look, I don't think they're separate hats. I used to do that with different clients, but I think if you can have all these skills and all of these tools up your tool belt, when someone
Mm,
comes in, you know exactly, a client is still a client at the end of the day. They may only
mhm,
need hypnotherapy or they may only need, an acupuncture treatment. So having these tools, and then sometimes they may need more than one. So I think it is definitely a help that it's all combined. I don't see them as being separate, but look, I'd say definitely the most rewarding thing at the end of the day is definitely being a mom, right? If I
mm,
could just, be a full-time mom, I would love that. But your children grow up quickly and they do need, we do need to work and be able to support them financially. If you want to give them the best of everything, my kids are
mhm,
going to private schools and they do a lot of extracurricular, it's hard to be able to give them the best if we're not working. But also, my purpose is definitely to help more people with having their family. And so, yeah, I love what I do. I love helping women. I've done so for, around the fertility space now for 7 years, and in the holistic healing space for 15. And yeah, there's nothing more rewarding than being able, when a client tells you that, they're pregnant or they're expecting a baby, and then to follow them through that journey. So I definitely love being a fertility practitioner and coach, and using all my tools to be able to, help them on their way to being a mother, for sure. So yeah, any tool that I can use on, to help them on their journey, for sure.
Yeah. And I love the fact how you put it all together, that every tool is an asset to who you
Yeah.
are, right?
Mm.
Because and could you get more tools? I always feel like to be a master, you could be a master at one thing, but to have diversity, I think that truly makes you a master, because like you said, you can see it from different angles, different points of view.
Yeah.
You can understand your clients so much better. Tell me, what made you go into NLP? Because that is, to me, I love it, but tell me what made you head in that direction.
Yeah, look, I think I fell into it. I sort of knew about NLP a few years ago, but not in the extent. And, my coach at the time, she was a business coach, and she was actually qualified to do NLP courses. And so, why not? I love learning. And I think most people that, we're continuously learning every day. I'm actually doing my trainer's trainer in NLP this year, actually. So I'm actually going above masters.
Nice.
In the next 12 to 18 months. So that's really exciting. I'm actually taking the next level up. I'll have a diploma. So on top of the masters, it'll actually be a diploma of NLP. And yeah, look, if you can add anything to help them on that mental, emotional state, right? So I talk about, I've got that physical understanding of the client, Chinese medicine and studying a science gives me that understanding on a physical level. But to really then tap in, and especially it became so prevalent in the last 3-4 years with the pandemic, is being able to tap into that subconscious brain, being able to really find out what is holding someone back, what is holding, what is stopping them from moving forward in their health. Like, we're just taking, say, fertility, but this can be across all areas. A lot of people have been through a lot of trauma. Everyone who's gone through life has had trauma, large or small, right? And if that is impacting you on a mental, emotional level, then, we want to be able to release that. So NLP and hypnotherapy has really been able to help my clients to release a lot of that. So yeah, I think it's just being able to access all these tools. I'll continuously learn over the next, I've still got many decades ahead of me. And I think to be able to serve your clients and be the best person that you can and bring value, yeah, we never stop learning. We never stop growing. We never stop adding more knowledge and techniques and tools to our clients. So being able to just utilize everything is just, helping my clients in whichever way possible. So yeah, no, I really love it. It's so amazing. For those that don't know what NLP is, I suggest, reading up on it. It really talks about how our thinking affects our body. And there's so much evidence scientifically now to show different brain waves, to test electrical signals, to see people's health completely change by just changing the way we think. And so it's become more important now that we really are in tune with, whether we're tapping into being positive or negative. You also can see through the last few years who are really positive people. And, it's always best for our health if we are actually around more positive people. We feel more alive. We feel better than to obviously be in negativity. And it's hard when people go through tough times, but it's how we sort of bounce back and learn from these, challenges and moving forward in life, right? So we talked about how life is full of challenges and ups and downs, and we're going to get them. It's not going to stop, but it's, so it's how we come out of it at the end of the day and how we move forward. So if any of the listeners out there have not, looked into NLP, they're suffering from any trauma or a lot of sort of negativity and things like that, yeah, to definitely have a look at how that can help you for sure.
Yeah, you know, and I love how you're talking about the thoughts, the language that we use, right? Because a lot of times we're talking to ourselves, right? How
Yeah.
many times do you talk to yourself? And back in the day, if you saw somebody, if you walk down the street now and you see somebody talking, is because they're talking, they have a thing in their thing, you know, and they're talking, right? Back 30 years ago, if you saw somebody doing that, you would think, oh, that person's crazy, right? But now you don't know if somebody's crazy or if they have something in their ear.
Yeah.
But whether you admit it or not, we talk to ourselves constantly, whether it's, you know, whether it's out loud or internally. We do have that communication with ourselves. The thoughts and the ideas, the concepts, that definitely drives our behaviors. So, what is it that you do for someone who has this negative thinking process? How do you help them get rid of it?
Look, I'd say, sorry, I'm just charging my laptop. It's about to die on me. There's a few different ways, but I think having that awareness, right, is the number one key, right? So just to answer your question, we actually have around 70 to 80,000 thoughts on a daily basis, possibly more for some people, maybe slightly less, but on average, we actually think 80,000 thoughts. So obviously our thoughts are determined by what we've gone through in life. You know, if you've had a great, joyous, happy life, you know, with very minimal, you know, obstacles and trauma, then you're going to think mostly positive thoughts. But obviously, if you've had more hardship than others, you're definitely going to be thinking a lot more negative thoughts, right? So I'd say the number one thing for saying to someone is having that awareness is to think, oh my gosh, did I just have that negative thought? Am I thinking the same thing over and over again 1,000,000 times a day, you know, at 80,000, 100,000 times a day? And is it the same thoughts? Because we generally tend to repeat the same thoughts day in and day out. So believe it or not, what you're thinking today is generally what you were thinking yesterday, the day before, last week, last month, right? Nothing really changes unless we have that conscious awareness. And that's where sort of NLP and looking at your thought process comes in, because are we having that awareness and going, okay, let's change our thoughts. Let's change the way we think. And we can do that, right? You can consciously do that, or you can work with someone who is trained in NLP or can take you through specific breakthroughs or trainings or specific coaching to be able to rectify that and be able to look at, okay, how can we change those thoughts moving forward? And when we change our thoughts, we do change our bodies. You know, there's a lot of studies now being done that our thoughts affect how we think. You know, take, for example, cancer clients. You know, there have been a lot of studies done that those who have positive thinking, or those that think, you know, the glass is half empty versus half full, are going to have better outcomes, right? Those who have positive thought patterns and mindset, like, you know, they become positive with their diagnosis, right, is definitely going to have better health outcomes and better diagnoses, as opposed to those that start spiraling and just keep thinking negative thoughts that they're going to die, that, you know, why them, and become victims and that. So, you know, really having that awareness, first of all, and then, you know, if you can't do it on your own or can't get enough advice, and to seek someone that can help you, especially those who have gone through tough times, you know, really tough. I've had clients who've gone through hell and back, right? And yet they've come out on top. And those who continuously, you know, if they haven't sought help or really look at how that's hurting themselves and people around them, you know, 5-10 years later, they're in worse positions, right? So really having that awareness and how it's affecting people around you, your loved ones, your family, because people can, if you may not have that awareness, but people can see you that you may not see yourself, right? Like sometimes people have better objective, you know, views of you. And so if someone's saying that you need help, or that you're driving people away, you're feeling lonely, that could all be signs, right? So really understanding yourself, where you're coming from, and look at ways to, you know, to change those thoughts around, right? We are we are definitely capable, and things like NLP, hypnotherapy, many other tools out there is capable of being able to put you back on positive trains of thought for sure. So yeah, it's very powerful how our thoughts really do affect our actions, our health, everything else. So yeah, deep stuff there.
When we connect the body and the mind, I believe that there is a congruent joining of forces, because if we are not physically active as well, right? If we lead a sedentary lifestyle, then it's easier for our thoughts not to be as positive, I believe, because your body is going to release certain chemicals when we are moving, right? So for me, movement is critical. Every day I have to move. So not only am I moving my body, but I'm moving my mind. Like you, I'm always looking to learn. And thank you so much for teaching me so much today. I appreciate you. When we can communicate with another person and be open to their thoughts, to their ideas, to their concepts, because if we're closed-minded, it's extremely hard to learn. So it's either a growth mindset or, I guess, a
Stagnant.
closed mindset, right?
Yeah,
Stagnant.
stagnant or yeah.
So when we think about NLP and when we think about, you're also a beauty therapist. Take a minute or two and tell me does that mean? Does that mean that I have to think of myself as beautiful, which we all know every one of us is gorgeous, beautiful, the most incredible human being there is. All you have to do, if you want to find that person, just look in the mirror, right?
Yeah, look, it's not always as easy for some. Obviously,
Right.
those who have that great self-esteem is going to look in the mirror and see a beautiful person. But obviously, there are many people who struggle with their own self-esteem issues, and they see something ugly on the other side. And those people, yeah, look, I feel definitely feel for them, and they should definitely seek some help for sure, because yeah, we all are beautiful on the inside. But coming back to beauty, it does radiate from within, right? So if you're definitely a positive, happy person, you're going to radiate happiness, right? If you look at people that are happy, they're smiling all the time, and it makes you feel good, right? As opposed to if you looking at someone that is constantly a negative Nancy, or got a lot of negativity and hating on the world, you don't feel like you want to hang around them or talk to them for a long time. And when people are angry or fearful, right, they make the sort of you can see it in the face, right? But that also affects you chemically. We talked about how you said if you're moving every day, you activate certain hormones, and that is definitely true from a scientific point of view. If we're moving, we release a lot of toxins, and we're activating a lot of adrenaline and a lot of happy hormones. That's why running or exercising or moving will definitely keep you healthy, because yeah, you're starting to detox, you're starting to feel better, and you're moving, right? And in the last few years, it's definitely been difficult for a lot of people, not able to move, being in lockdown. If we're locked down a lot. So we have to remember that, yeah, movement is key. And also obviously hanging around the right people. I'm really big on understanding that, you have to, there are family members and friends that, you may not be able to choose your family, but limit the time with some of the family members, that are kind of very negative or very condescending or don't make you feel good, right? You want to hang around people that uplift you and really bring joy and make you smile and laugh, right? Because, laughter is truly the best medicine. And, it definitely keeps you younger. If you're feeling happier and healthier, there is many studies out there that it helps you live longer. So yeah, coming back to your thoughts and who you see and who you hang around, there's so many aspects of your life that you can definitely, incorporate into helping you look healthier, look younger, live longer, for sure.
Definitely. Ellie, this has been very informative, it's been great getting to know you. And I know that you do have a lot of knowledge and expertise. And I think anybody who is interested in connecting with you should definitely go to fertilityandhealthexpert.com and connect with you there as well. Any last words before we log off?
Look, I just thank you so much for having me on your show. We know we tried to schedule this in the different time zones. It's been a bit challenging, but finally I'm here. Thank you to all your listeners. I hope you did get a couple of good nuggets out of our chat today. And yeah, please reach out. I offer some great discovery calls, complimentary discovery calls. If there's something you want to discuss, be it health or fertility wise, definitely, go to the website. There's a link to be able to chat with me and get a couple of my free ebooks as well. But look, I just want to wish everyone going into 2023 a wonderful and happy, Christmas and New Year, that, hopefully it will be one of, the better years coming out of the pandemic now. Hopefully things have settled down quite a lot more this year. And that, remember, without your health, there's nothing more important than basically taking care of your health, because at the end of the day, your health is your wealth, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, to make sure you are putting yourself first, to take care of yourself, and to really make sure you are doing all those things for your own self-care. So making 2023 a healthy, happy year for everyone around. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here with us. And we did miss Celeste. I know she had technical issues, and one of the things that life always brings throws curveballs at us, right? And it's how you adapt, it's how you move forward. But I hope that Celeste will get her computer in gear for next week as we come with another amazing guest. Ellie, thank you so much, and you have an amazing evening. And anybody in the East Coast here with me in New York, have an amazing, amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.